Hi everyone, and welcome to the Wolf Townships. With trapping season fast approaching, begins on November 1st, and with our wolves once again facing a gauntlet of traps, snares, and hunters, I thought it would be best if we discuss this area and its importance to Denali's wolves and wolf viewing. Realistically speaking, the Wolf Townships are the epicenter of Denali wolf viewing, even though it's state lands outside the park, meaning what happens here in the wintertime with the targeting and killing of Denali's wolves significantly impacts wolf viewing inside the park during the summer. First, where is the Wolf Townships? Let's briefly head back to the cabin and I'll show you on a map of the eastern part of the park. Okay, so this is a map of eastern Denali National Park. This right here is the park entrance, and this follows the only road leading into Denali. Healy, which is a small town, is 10 miles to the north of the park entrance. And then if you notice this rectangular area here, okay, this is the Wolf Townships right here. This is state land as well as residents live here. And then during the winter months, the park wolves are traveling into this area to access the Denali caribou herd. And this is also where hunters and trappers are targeting and killing our wolves, which certainly has major impacts to the wolves, but also has impacts to visitor viewing of wolves during the summer months. And so this is the area that I'm talking about in my talk here. And then the Park Service proposal is including this area as well as all the way coming up here slightly to, I believe, to the east of the Parks Highway, and then coming down here. Roughly, that's the rough dimensions of it. Okay, and then quoting from Dr. Gordon Haber, who studied Denali's wolves for 43 years, in his and Mary Beth Holloman's books, Among Wolves, losses of individual wolves and entire wolf groups continue with serious harm to world-class scientific and viewing values, and despite legitimate ethical concerns. On page 194, wolves typically engage in one of three types of movements. One, the more or less routine recurring movements that define the territory of each group. Two, the unpredictable extraterritorial forays by each group well outside these areas. And then three, dispersals during which certain individuals, most commonly 2 to 3 year olds, leave a group and don't return. It's during the winter extraterritorial forays that eastern wolf groups are put in danger. Extraterritorial forays are easy to underrate in importance because they constitute only about 9% of the wolves' winter travel. But when they extend into areas of easy hunting, trapping access, and the heavy development that nearly surrounds the east and northeast boundaries of Denali, it becomes a crapshoot for the wolves to make it back home intact. Let's discuss the history of the Wolf Townships, its critical winter habitat for both wolves and caribou, and the distance some wolves travel to access this location and why. So this is an abbreviated history. It's put together by Dr. Rick Steiner, and I've added a few relevant points too. The full history will be included in the description, or at least most of it. November 2000, Board of Game establishes a small, approximately 29 square mile buffer in western Wolf Townships, but wolf take remains significant. May 2001, Alaska Department of Fish and Game, also known as ADF&G, proposes to enlarge the buffer to 72 square miles. Board of Game approves. February 2005, breeding female of East Fork is trapped and killed in the Wolf Townships east of and outside the too small protective buffer. April 2005, breeding male of East Fork disperses to the south where he is shot and killed south of Cantwell. This leaves 6 1- and 2-year-old wolves left in Denali's longest wolf lineage. October 2008, independent Alaska biologists petitioned ADF&G commissioner to use emergency authority to enlarge the buffer to over 300 square miles as mortality of eastern Denali wolves remained high, with 19 killed along the boundary in 2 successive years. Commissioner declines. November 2008, independent biologists petitioned Denali National Park to close wolf take on some of its lands inside Denali National Preserve and new additions. National Park Service declines. March 2010, wolf viewing success in the park is at 45%, primarily due to Grant Creek denning a quarter mile from the park road west of the Toklat River. Significant wolf mortality continues despite the existing small buffer in place for 10 years. Several proposals submitted to the Board of Game to expand the buffer. Board of Game declines all proposals, eliminates buffer entirely, and poses a 6-year moratorium on considering any further Denali buffer proposal. May of 2012. Grant Creek pregnant female killed in trap baited with dead horse along park boundary. Grant Creek group fails to den her pup. Grant Creek's group suffers an 80% decline 1 year from 15 members to 3 by 2013. And wolf viewing success declines from 21% in 2011 to 4 to 6% beginning in 2013. The killing of this breeding female would lead to a cascade of changes for this family group. 80% decline in numbers from 15 to 5 to 3 wolves by 2013, shifting of the den site away from the park road, far less use of the park road with consequent loss of visitor viewing, shifting of territory to the east and then north and then west from 2012 to 2023, and as of 2023, the wolf viewing of Grant Creek or any group has not recovered. September 2012, in response to loss of Grant Creek group from trapping kill of the pregnant female, Alaska Conservation Group submitted emergency petition to the Board of Game to reestablish the Denali buffer. Board of Game declines. 2015 to 2016, NPS research by Dr. Bridget Borg confirms observed breeder loss effect where the disintegration of wolf family groups can follow the loss of a significant breeding wolf. It confirmed that in years with a small buffer in place, visitor viewing success of wolves in the park was greater. May 2015, 2 wolves from the long-studied East Fork group, one likely a breeder, killed at a bear bait station in Stampede Trail, and East Fork group declines from 14 to 4 members that year. May of 2015, with only weeks left in the season, Commissioner agrees to emergency closure of further trapping and hunting in the area, but only after the significant loss of the East Fork group. Wolf viewing success drops to 5%. August 2015, citizens again petitioned Denali National Park to close wolf take on its lands in the preserve and park conditions. National Park Service declines. 2013-2016, Alaskans proposed trade between U.S. Department of Interior and state for a permanent Denali buffer to be established by the state in exchange for a like-valued federal easement granted to the state. Citizens' online petition requesting the Department of Interior and the state of Alaska to make a Denali buffer deal gains over 370,000 signatures from around the world. But with Trump election in 2016, the proposal is dropped. May of 2016, another East Fork breeding male killed in the Wolf Townships at a bear bait station. Its mate dens and has 2 pups, but they all quickly disappear. Last sighting of the mother and pups was June 26. This female did not have a radio collar on at this time. The pups are assumed to have died as it would have been difficult for a lone mother to feed, protect, and care for the pups. Long-studied East Fork family group disappears, bringing an end to Denali's longest wolf lineage, which began at least with Dr. Adolph Murray's study in 1939. August 2016, Fairbanks North Star Borough adopts resolution calling on the governor to establish a Denali buffer to protect wolves, bears, and wolverines. Governor declines to act. Spring 2017, Alaska House of Representatives passed HB 105 to establish Denali wolf buffer of approximately 500 square miles. Despite overwhelming public testimony and support to the state Senate, in 2018 the buffer bill dies in Senate Resources Committee. 2010 to the present, Alaskans continue to propose non-consumptive representatives for appointment to the Board of Game. None are put forward by the governor. Despite the Alaska constitutional requirement that wildlife be managed on behalf of all citizens, the Board of Game remains comprised solely of consumptive use representatives, meaning hunters and trappers, a minority constituency in Alaska. Independent research shows that the chance of a consumptive use, meaning trapping and hunting, proposal being adopted by the Board of Game is more than 5 times greater than a non-consumptive or conservation proposal being adopted. 2017, as the Board of Game declined all proposals to reestablish or expand Denali buffer since 2001, Alaskans request that Governor Bill Walker administratively establish the buffer through the executive authority as a special use area or state recreation area. Governor Walker agrees. Administrative proposal is developed. 2018, Governor changes his mind and the Governor declines. March 2018, citizens again petition ADF&G Commissioner to establish buffer by emergency order. Commissioner declines. Spring of 2018, Riley Creek group seen along the park road the previous year in 2017 contributes to an increase in visitor viewing success to 17%. Collared Riley Creek male killed in former buffer area, Wolf Townships, and Riley Creek group declines from 17 to 6 wolves. April 2018. With only a few weeks left in the trapping season, Commissioner agrees to enact emergency closure buffer, but only after losses to Riley Creek and Combe groups. June of 2018. Opinion polls of Alaskans conducted by Remington Research Group shows overwhelming support for a Denali buffer to protect wolves, bears, lynx, and wolverines on state lands along the boundary of the park. 54% in favor, 37% opposed, 9% undecided. July 2019. In-season survey by Denali bus drivers reports the chance of seeing wolves at historic low. Not quite non-existent, but pretty close. As a result, citizens again petitioned ADF&G Commissioner and Board of Game to use emergency authority to establish Denali buffer before the opening of hunting season beginning on August 10th. Commissioner Board of Game declines emergency proposals. October 2019. Denali National Park reports the lowest wolf viewing success on record during the 2019 season of only 1%. The 2019 decline was due in part to natural factors, but a significant part due to cumulative losses from continued hunting and trapping along the park boundary since the buffer was removed in 2010. By comparison, at Yellowstone, wolf viewing success averages about 70% and supports a $35 million a year, and I've heard up to $82 million a year tourist economy. Noting the recent decline in Denali visitor numbers and spending, Alaska citizens again petitioned ADF&G Commissioner and the Board of Game to use emergency authority to close Denali buffer prior to scheduled November 1st opening of trapping. Commissioner and Board of Game decline emergency proposals. October 2019. In a final effort to have the Board of Game convene an emergency meeting to consider the petition prior to the scheduled opening of trapping, over 11,000 public comments were sent to the Board of Game in just 2 weeks. In response, Board of Game Chair tells Alaska citizens advocating for the emergency petition, you need to back off and be patient and let the process work. This is how the process works. November 2019, trapping opens at Denali on state lands and within most of Denali National Preserve. So why do Denali's wolves travel to the Wolf Townships in the winter? The Wolf Townships are typically a very wind-blown area, and it gives caribou far easier access to lichen mosses which they feed on. Consequently, the wolves follow the caribou herd there. But unlike wolves, Denali's caribou herd has been protected on these state lands from hunters since 1972. Why the double standard in protecting Denali's caribou herd and not Denali's wolves? How far will Denali's wolves travel to access the Wolf Townships? In previous discussions I had with Gordon when he was alive, I remember Gordon stating that wolves from the far western portions of the park would sometimes travel up to 90 miles to access the Wolf Townships. This is in addition to the eastern wolf family groups, which provided the vast majority of visitor viewing opportunities. In summary, the Wolf Townships are critical winter habitat for both Denali's wolves and caribou. Eastern wolves as well as wolves from the far reaches of western Denali will travel to access this area. I'm quoting from Dr. Gordon Haber. The most glaring omission from true ecological boundaries is the Wolf Townships, a rectangular notch that juts into the eastern park just a few miles from the park road. It is an essential and regular part of the wolves' natural ecosystem territory. End quotes. There is a double standard in managing wolves versus caribou, as the Denali caribou herd is protected throughout the Wolf Townships, but Denali's wolves are not. There are no hysterical and howling claims of federal overreach when it comes to protecting Denali's caribou herd. In 2019 and again in 2022, wolf viewing declined to its lowest on record, with only 1% of visitors actually seeing wolves. And since the death of the breeding female wolf of Grant Creek back in 2012, wolf viewing beginning in 2013 declined to 4 to 6%, rose to 17% in 2018 due to the establishment of Riley Creek West rendezvous sites, and declined further to 1% in 2019 and 2022. Riley Creek West, by the way, did not survive that winter due to natural causes. And by the way, in regards to rendezvous sites, if you don't know what those are, when pups leave the den, they're actually too small to be able to keep up with the adults. So the pups are moved to what's called rendezvous sites, or think of them as temporary gathering sites where the pups are left for a period of time. Then they'll be moved to another rendezvous site, use that for a period of time, then used to another. Okay, they're going to continue using these rendezvous sites until at least late September, or even as late as early November, and by that time the pups are large enough to be able to keep up with the adults. Wolf viewing is yet to recover on a semi-consistent basis and won't until Denali wolves are fully protected in the Wolf Townships on a year-round basis. So for wolf viewing, a fundamental fact of wolf viewing in Denali is this. Wolf viewing isn't about the numbers of wolves that inhabit the park, but the behaviors that these individual wolves and family groups adopt. It is these unique behaviors such as travel, hunting, making kills, and the establishment of rendezvous sites and den sites near the park road that enable wolf viewing. It is these last three possibilities that add significant predictability and higher quality to possible wolf sightings. The gold standard of wolf viewing is the establishment of the ultra-rare den site near the park road. Grant Creek Denny near the park road from 2004 to 2011, with a couple of off years, provided the best wolf viewing in my 36 years in Denali. In many cases, these were unforgettable, high-quality sightings, including wolf pups, that excited and mesmerized hundreds of thousands of park visitors each year. Wolf viewing reached its all-time peak in 2010 when 45% of visitors actually saw and enjoyed wolves, mostly due to Grant Creek. This came to a crashing end in 2012 when a local trapper took his horse to the northern boundary, shot it, and then used it as bait to successfully kill the breeding female, the most important wolf to family group continuity, and primary attendant female. This led to massive and cascading changes in the numbers of wolves within this family group, with a one-year 80% decline from 2012 to 2013, shifting of territory to the east, north, and then west since 2012, moving the den site away from the park road, minimal use of the park road for travel and hunting, and minimal visitor viewing and enjoyment. Quoting from this trapper in the National Geographic article, "How can 6 million acres at Denali still not be enough?" And this article, by the way, is available online. Quoting, "This was the third time I ruined millions of people's Denali National Park viewing experience." End quote. This perfectly sums up the attitude of the trapping community, trapping and hunting groups, the Alaska Board of Game, the state of Alaska, and some businesses in the tourism industry who only care about profits and not wildlife or the visitor experience. It further demonstrates the destructive power of what one knowledgeable trapper can do and the fragility of wolf family group behaviors, den sites, and visitor viewing. The Alaska Board of Game has continuously refused to consider offering any protections to Denali's wolves and allows them to be trapped, snared, tortured, maimed, and killed by both trappers and hunters. And by the way, if you object to my use of the term tortured and maimed, be sure to check out my next video on why wolf trapping should be banned throughout all of Alaska. Wolves and family groups that are consistently killed, disrupted, and or disintegrate as family units are never able to adopt for long consistent behaviors that enable visitor viewing. This has been borne out consistently with Denali's wolves being trapped and killed over the years within the Wolf Townships. More evidence of human-caused impacts to wolf family groups was provided when NPS released a comprehensive study in January of this year that gives overwhelming evidence regarding human impacts to wolf family groups. The study is titled "Human-Caused Mortality Triggers Pack Instability in Gray Wolves" by NPS researcher Cassidy and many other biologists, not only from Denali, Yellowstone, Grand Teton, Voyagers, and Yukon Charlie National Preserve. The 2024 National Park Service proposal. NPS has submitted a year-round proposal to protect Denali's wolves throughout the Wolf Townships, and this will be considered in the March 2024 Alaska Board of Game meeting in Fairbanks. Hi everyone, and welcome to a very snow-covered Wolf Townships. So in my previous segments, I had talked a lot about the Wolf Townships and also why we should ban trapping in the second video. I would like you all to do, and what I'd like you to do is to be able to support the National Park Service proposal to protect all the Wolf Townships. And so when the Board of Game finally starts taking public comment, please write down a few comments in support of the Park Service proposal, or if you really feel motivated, to travel up to Fairbanks and testify in person. Board of Game, but what all of this will do is it's going to put public attention on this very issue. And this isn't just about protecting the wolves, it's also about offering Denali visitors a full and rich wilderness experience. This doesn't mean a guarantee that they'll see wolves or hear them, but it does mean that they would actually have a realistic opportunity to have that experience. Currently, right now, This past summer I had 3 sightings all summer long of wolves. Last year it was only 2 sightings. The year before that it was 0 sightings. And so what the hunters and trappers are doing here has significantly impacted not only wolf family group dynamics, but also the visitor viewing of the park's wolves and the overall visitor experience. Very few of them, or where people don't get a chance to see them, that really degrades the wilderness experience of Denali National Park. You have to have that opportunity to have that full, rich wilderness experience to where you actually have a chance to hear them or see them or both. Without that, it really degrades the wilderness experience of Denali. And so this ask is for individuals, it's for businesses, it's for dog owners. You know, if you're a dog owner and you're not really interested in wolves or wildlife for that matter, well, guess what? Trapping and snaring also impacts you as well and your dog. I don't want to see or hear anyone have to go through the trauma of trying to remove a snare or remove their dog from a trap. No one should have to be able to go through that. And so if you're a cross-country skier, snowshoer, dog musher, ski-jourer, or someone who likes to go winter camping with your dog, all of this concerns you. And again, you shouldn't have to be paranoid about taking your dog out to recreate and with the possibility of it getting trapped or snared. And so I'd really like to bring dog owners and wolf enthusiasts and wilderness enthusiasts and national park enthusiasts and people who just want to have that full rich experience in Denali, bring everyone together in regards to this issue and try to have it addressed eventually to this very issue. And then the other thing to look out for in the early part of 2024 is a new documentary called A Good Wolf, which is going to discuss this very issue here in the Wolf Townships. It interviews hunters and trappers, and it interviews those folks who wish to have wolves protected. And it discusses the differences in values that these two groups have. So be sure to check that out. That's also going to certainly increase attention on this very issue, as it certainly should. So thank you for sticking with me for this long. Thank you for listening or watching both videos or one or the other. And I really do appreciate it, and certainly appreciate your attention and also any and all support that you may give to this very issue. Thanks again.